Hey, so in this video I want to talk about some really common mistakes that many independent artists make, including myself, so that you can avoid them altogether and advance in your career way faster. A long time ago now, when I was in college, I was in a pop rock band. We were pretty decent and we did some really awesome things. We played a lot of cool shows, including festivals and theatres. We got our music on loads of really big radio stations, including BBC and Planet Rock, and we even signed a publishing deal. However, we also made some really big mistakes, especially early on, that almost certainly held us back. And I want to share those with you right now so that you can avoid them altogether and you can progress way faster than we did. First thing I want to talk about is song arrangements. We had some decent songs. Were they the best in the world? Obviously not, but we had some really great songs. One thing that wasn't so good though were the arrangements. We had this really big hang up that our songs had to sound huge and larger than life. So we threw absolutely everything that we could, including the kitchen sink, into our recordings, just adding more and more elements in. The result, they just came out sounding messy, cumbersome, unfocused, and they didn't sound big at all. Due to our complete lack of experience and ego, thinking that we knew best all the time, we failed to realise that if we wanted our chorus to sound huge, then the verse or whatever comes before it had to sound small by comparison. If everything is big in your production, then nothing's big. You have to create contrast and carefully manage the production and the arrangement to suit your song. We didn't do that. Number two was releasing music without a plan. Possibly the biggest trap that we fell into was thinking because we had good songs, they would automatically do well and get traction when we released them. The cream rises to the top, eventually we'd get noticed, we'd sign a record deal, and the rest is history. This is at best naive, and at worst, completely delusional. It may have been the case 20, 30 years ago that you could put out some music on CDs, put it out online, and someone would notice it and they would get in touch and sign you up. Or you could go and play a few shows and maybe there'd be a handful of A&R guys from a record label there and they come up and introduce themselves after, they compliment you on your set and they'd sign a deal. But right now, regardless of whether you sign a record deal in the future, you have to build a fan base and get traction on your own. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And with over 100,000 new songs hitting streaming platforms every single day, you have to have something and do something that is going to make you stand out from all of that noise. Simply writing and releasing great songs and then posting about it on your social media profiles just isn't enough. And when I was releasing music with my band, we wasted years writing really good songs, but then getting really deflated when we released them and they just didn't take off, they didn't get traction. Now at this point you might be thinking, Adam, how on earth am I supposed to do all of this stuff on my own? I'm a songwriter and a performer. I'm not a producer or a mix engineer. I'm not a marketing guru. What do I do? Well, the point that I'm making is this. Even though independent artists are expected to do all of this stuff on their own, there's no way that one person or a couple of people can be an expert at everything. And anybody who's ever built a successful career for themselves, whether it's in music or any industry for that matter, has to recognise their own weaknesses and then do something about it. And this was ultimately the biggest mistake that we made in our band all of those years ago, thinking that we could do everything ourselves, then releasing good music, but then getting really frustrated when it just didn't take off, it didn't get traction that we wanted, playing shows all over the country, but then getting deflated when they didn't lead to anything and we were struggling to grow our fan base. We're focusing on far too much, very often the wrong things, and not doing a great job at any of them. It takes a lot of self-awareness to get over this, and there's no room for big egos, but it is the fastest way to get to ultimately where you want to be. And this is also the main reason that I created the momentum model, so that independent artists can get amazing results in a relatively short period of time. And because I've spent the last decade building up a network of people around me, when I work with artists, as well as crafting amazing sounding songs, we can build a bespoke team of individuals focused on getting the results that you want and filling in any gaps where you might be falling short. So maybe I'm working with an artist and it becomes clear that they need someone to design a logo, or a photographer, or a videographer, or even video editor. That's not a problem, we can set that up. Maybe we're getting to the end of the production and the mixing stage, planning the release strategy, and they want a radio plugin campaign to get their music on the radio. No problem, we've got people that can do that. Maybe you want some weird and wonderful instrumentation on your song to make it stand out from the rest, but it falls out of my area of expertise and your area of expertise. Well, I have session players galore that we can call on. Maybe you want to set up a playlisting campaign for your next release and get your music on some of those huge Spotify playlists, exposing it to potentially thousands or millions of new listeners. That's no problem, we can do that. You see, the point I'm making is that this is impossible for one person to do effectively, even for a group of people to do effectively if they don't know what they're doing. That's why a team of experts will always be far more effective and get results quicker than you possibly can on your own. So if you like what I'm talking about here and you're interested in learning more about the momentum model, there's a link in the description below to book a call. It's completely free and there are no obligations at the end of the call. We'll talk about where you are right now with your music and ultimately where you want to be. I can also give you the exact roadmap of what you need to do in order to get there. If you decide that the momentum model is perfect for you and you want to work with me on it, then that's great. We can talk about the next steps. If not, that's totally fine too. So click that link in the description below, book a call, and let's chat.